Welcome everyone. Welcome to Play It Forward and happy Friday. My name is Allison. You are listening to WUSB.FM 90.1 and 107.3 FM. I'm here with Chloe and Aisha. How is it going, girls?
Good to see you. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, enjoying the fall weather. It's about to be fall soon. Leaves are changing. Very nice.
Yeah, perfect.
Some briskness in the air. So here's Aisha. She's going to just tell you a little bit about our show.
Okay, so every 2 weeks we discuss the fentanyl and opioid crisis that's plaguing our nation. A lot of people don't know what fentanyl is. So what is fentanyl? It's a synthetic opioid that can be used to treat severe pain. However, it's a controlled substance and people are not supposed to have access to it unless it's been prescribed. And that's not the case. Here in the States, the government has seized enough fentanyl this year to give every American a lethal dose. And that's basically a chemical attack on our country because it's 289 deaths a day.
Wow.
And it's equivalent to basically if a plane were to crash every day, that's how many people die from fentanyl overdoses. Yeah.
That should get everyone's attention.
Mm-hmm. So, continuing, more specifically, the lethal dose is just 2 milligrams of fentanyl, which is like very, very small, minuscule amount. So now that we kind of know what it is, we're going to get specific, and we had an interview with a very special guest with an amazing story of hope, resilience, strength, and their journey in recovery. And I'm going to pass it to Allison because I think she has something to mention before.
Okay, well, I first want to just give a quick shout out to Dr. Carol Carter of Sunshine Prevention Center and LICAD for a very successful event they had at Theater 3, Tipping the Pain Scale. It was a documentary that was very successful last Thursday. So we do have a very special guest that we interviewed, Francine. But here's Chloe to introduce our guest.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chloe, and we have a really special guest today who has an amazing story of hope and resilience and courage. And she's a survivor and a thriver and a productive member of society. And she just gives so much to the recovery world. And she's proof that people do recover, including from fentanyl addiction.
So here we go. Here's our interview with Francine. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Francine. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Really glad to have you. Before we dig right into the questions we've prepared for you, would you like to first take the stage and let us know a little bit about your story?
I'm Francine. I was a fentanyl and a heroin addict in recovery now. I started drinking at a really young age and started drinking alcoholically when I was 15 and got addicted to drugs and then got addicted to heroin and was homeless, and now I'm in recovery.
Awesome. Well, we're so happy you're here with us, Francine. Thank you for being here. And I'm so happy you're in recovery and here to share your story. What was the reason that made you want to try a substance for the first time?
I was like 12 when I first had my first drink. I was a really angry kid. I didn't fit in. Some past trauma kind of set me apart from everybody. It didn't set me apart, but it just made me angry. I was just angry, and there was beer sitting in the fridge at my house, and I stole it and I drank the whole 6-pack, and I liked that feeling.
Wow. That wow. What do you feel was the difference between then and when you feel you progress to using comparatively more regularly?
It started out fun, a social lubricant. I would drink so that I could talk to people, drink so that I could go to parties. I enjoyed being drunk and hanging out with my friends. And then I I was drinking alone and started doing drugs and experimenting with other drugs and started doing drugs alone. Nobody wanted me around. My friends that did drugs didn't even want to hang out with me. I started using every day, started drinking every day from the morning until night. Hold on. My mom's walking through right now, of course.
That's okay. She must be very proud of you.
Yeah.
Go ahead whenever you're ready, Francine.
And slowly, I just started using every day and I couldn't stop. And I couldn't get control of it. I'd try to stop and I couldn't stop. I'd make promises to people. I'd make promises to myself. I'd swear I'd stop, but the next day I would get loaded again. And that's how it started progressing. And then when I met heroin, I fell in love. It was like I met a girl that I was in love with, like driving a fast car. It was like having sex for the first time. It was amazing. It was the best feeling I ever had. And I loved it. And by then I had already had the disease, but I didn't know that I had the disease. And I started doing heroin every day because I loved that feeling. I loved the feeling and the effects produced by heroin.
Okay. Have you ever overdosed before?
I have not overdosed on heroin, but I've overdosed on Xanax.
Wow.
Do you want to kind of talk about what that was like?
I don't really remember. I was blacked out. The girl I was seeing at the time told me that I was unresponsive and I wasn't breathing. And she was giving me CPR and blowing meth into my lungs to try to stimulate my heart. I don't really remember any of it. So, I don't know. But I remember
terrifying.
waking up in the morning and she was screaming at me and pounding on my chest, crying.
That's so scary. I can only imagine, for her, for you then to learn about this. When you were using heroin, speaking of overdose, was there any concern? Like in terms of right now, there's a big problem with fentanyl. Were you concerned about that when you were using heroin?
No, fentanyl was getting a little fentanyl in your heroin was like a little gift basket inside of your heroin. It was a little bit stronger and yeah, it would make me happy.
You had the tolerance for
it.
Sorry.
Yeah, and when I started doing heroin, I was a heroin smoker, and then I moved to IV, and when fentanyl came around, those fentanyl 30 blues, I started smoking those and quit shooting heroin to smoke those because they were strong enough to get me well without having to do a shot.
Wow.
And they were stronger, and I liked the high, of course.
So you talked about how you were homeless before. Do you want to, I mean, obviously it was really hard, but what was the hardest part about just being an addict?
Being an addict would be having to get money to get heroin or fentanyl every day. I would rob, lie, steal, cheat, manipulate. I would probably go dig up my grandma's grave and take a gold tooth out of her mouth if I knew it was on her carcass to sell it if I knew it was there
Wow.
to get my next fix.
Wow.
I would want to follow up that question with another difficult one. How has your substance use disorder impacted your family and your friends, the people around you?
Um, my mom and dad and my whole family always was worried that they were going to get the call that I was either dead or in jail. They couldn't have me around because I'd steal everything from them to the point where they didn't trust me anymore, so they wouldn't let me in the house. And if I did get the chance to get into the house, I would steal from them. If they did let me in, they would hide everything because they knew they couldn't trust me to be around. I would promise them that I would get clean over and over again, but my promises to them and getting clean for them was never enough. Yeah, they didn't. They were always worried that they would get the call that I'm dead, and I said that already.
Yeah.
So continuing from that, what kind of like regrets do you have about your past, like if any? And
I don't regret anything because everything that I did made me who I am today.
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah,
What
I
do
think
you
that's a great way to think.
absolutely? What would you say, Francine, was the least helpful and the most helpful things that you have tried, in your recovery
Mm,
or to get into recovery?
Moving would be the least helpful thing. I moved to Arizona for a while with a girl to try to get clean, and that didn't work. I just ended up getting loaded in Arizona, and then on my way back, the most helpful thing is 12-step meetings and detox helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
Francine, your story is so powerful, and to be able to share your story, and I want to emphasize this is your past because you're in the beginning of recovery, as right as you had said. And first of all, I think we all should give Francine a round of applause because that's
Yes.
Thank
a huge
you.
milestone. Good for you for picking yourself up and getting help. So thank you for sharing very difficult things to talk about, and we're happy that you're here. So with
Thank you
that
for
said,
having me.
yeah, well, thank you again. And with that said, what do you feel needs to change to get this fentanyl crisis, opioid epidemic under control, and more people into recovery, anything that you feel that might have helped you earlier on?
Probably more access to resources, and if people stopped stigmatizing people who used so that they felt that they couldn't get into recovery. More awareness of the resources that are here. But definitely, yeah, definitely more resources. I feel like there's not enough resources. Like, I went to treatment a couple years ago, and when I got out, if my brother didn't take me in, I would have been homeless. If they had transitional housing for people who got out of treatment, who were coming from the streets, who were homeless before, and more resources for that, less people would go back out after treatment.
So, thank you. Thank
Thank,
you.
Thank you.
thank you so much for sharing so much information with us. And I would follow that up with another question asking you about if you have ever relapsed before.
Yeah, relapse is a part of my story. I've been trying this for like 15 years, off and on. The most time I've ever gotten is 110 days before this time. I tried treatment twice, went to detox 3 or 4 times, tried moving, that didn't work. And when I stopped following suggestions from other addicts that have recovery, and stopped going to 12-step meetings, usually I go back out. So,
So, following up on that, I feel like a very important question for people who are listening to us, since you just shared that you have been into multiple treatments and multiple occasions for detoxes, do you still have that constant fear, even after having, your resources and help that is required? Do you still have that constant fear of relapsing again? And how do you think you deal with that?
I don't have that fear today. Like, yesterday I went and I talked at a treatment center, and on my way there, I walked by 2 people that were smoking fentanyl at a bus stop.
Wow.
And it's because I have a support group around me and a network of people that I call and check in with every day. I go to 12-step meetings
Wow.
a couple of times a week. I work with other addicts in recovery, other heroin addicts in recovery, and did 12-step work. But there's also a saying that if you go to the barber shop, you're going to get a haircut. So I wouldn't go hang out at a trap house where people are doing heroin. But do I have a fear that I'm going to relapse every day? No.
That's good. I'm really happy that you don't have that
And
fear.
you're in a part of your journey where you don't have that fear. That's
It's
wonderful.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're happy for you.
So inspiring.
I wanted to ask about the treatment that you were mentioning. So, what is your opinion on medically assisted treatment or MAT?
I think it can be really helpful, especially people who are early in recovery Suboxone helps people from relapsing, preventing relapse. And I think there is a lot of stigma there, but MAT is really helpful for people who do opiates, who are more at risk of relapse. And
So how has stigma like impacted you?
When my son was born, we went to the hospital, and after the nurse found out that I and Hila's birth mother were on Suboxone, they started treating us very differently. And they were being really rude and talking very disrespectfully to us. They treated us like we were just addicts who were on drugs.
She should have supported you, if anything. This is a medical.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
That's upsetting to hear. I'm so
it's
sorry.
really
Yeah.
disturbing to hear
Purpose
that,
of going to the
especially
hospital is to get better.
in a medical.
There's a lot of confusion in the medical field about Suboxone and about what it does and what it's there for. When it's there for people who are in early recovery, who are transitioning into recovery, and it helps prevent relapse and also helps people get through being dope sick.
Yeah. Well, I'm really sorry you had to experience that type of,
It's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
there's so much stigma already.
Yeah, if she doesn't know, she's not informed. They weren't informed, the nurses that worked there, and that's okay.
Well, thank you so much, Francine. You've done such a wonderful job, disclosing, your experience and your strength and your hope. And I was just curious, how long have you been sober, and what are some of the greatest gifts and rewards that you experience in your recovery?
My sobriety date is 4/1/22, April Fool's Day. And today I show up for people. I show up for my friends. I show up for my son. I have a roof over my head. My family, I live with my family who would never let me in the house before.
Wow.
I rebuilt relationships that I never thought I would get back. I'm accountable. I'm about to go back to school.
Yeah.
Yay. Congrats.
Congratulations.
That's amazing.
What do you plan on studying? What's your goal?
I'm going to get into the treatment field.
All right.
Yay!
All right. So I just I want to interject that we are so incredibly honored to have you as our guest today. And you have done an amazing job of speaking your story, which I can't imagine how difficult it must be to do. And you have tremendous strength and you offer tremendous inspiration. And I think you are on a path to success. And God bless your son. We're really happy for you that you're here and you can help others. And
yeah, I'm really grateful to be here and that I got a chance to tell my story so that other people can hear it. That it is possible for us to recover. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francine, for being with us.
Thank you.
We hope to have you back
Absolutely.
and get an update.
Such an inspiration.
Thank you so
Love you.
much for your
Thank
time.
you so much for being with us today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much to everyone that supports this cause and understands how important it is not only to look out for each other, but also to empathize with anyone you know dealing with addiction. And it's very important to be educated and to educate our kids, and this has to stop. And Chloe is going to mention some resources that are helpful.
Yeah, so SAMHSA's national helpline is 1-800-662-HELP. They're a treatment routing service. There's also Narcotics Anonymous, both virtual and in person, Heroin Anonymous, Sober Grid, which is a social media platform for those in recovery, Thrive, which is a local organization that is a recovery community that offers free recovery coaching, among other groups. Never Use Alone Helpline, which is 1-800-484-3731. They'll stay on the phone with you if you're using, and will get help if you're in risk of an overdose. And Mandy's Line, where you can anonymously chat with somebody with lived experience.
So thank you so much for that information, Chloe. Those are very important resources, and there's many more. So we encourage everyone to keep playing it forward. This is Allison of the Play It Forward Project, and I hope you tune into our next show on October 28th at 1 p.m. We will have another very special guest who is part of our community. So thank you for listening. We will be closing our show with a very special song. Take a listen to the lyrics. It's very powerful, by Rob Thomas, Someday. You are listening to WUSB 90.1, 107.3 FM. I'm Allison. Be well, everyone, and look out for one another.
You can go, you can start all over again. You could try to find a way to make another day go by. You can hide on all your feelings inside. You could try to carry on when all you wanna do is cry. And maybe someday we'll figure all this out. Try to put an end to all our doubt. Try to find a way to make things better now. And maybe someday we'll live our lives out loud. We'll be better off somehow. Someday. Now wait and try to find another mistake. If you throw it all away, then maybe you could change your mind. You can run, and when everything is over and done, you could shine a little light on everything around you. Man, it's good to be someone. And maybe someday we'll figure all this out. Try to put an end to all our doubt. Try to find a way to make things better now. And maybe someday we'll live our lives out loud. We'll be better off somehow. Someday. And I don't wanna wait, I just wanna know. I just wanna hear you tell me so. Give it to me straight, tell it to me slow. 'Cause maybe someday we'll figure all this out. We'll put an end to all our doubt. Try to find a way to just feel better now. And maybe someday